Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Peter Abraham. I'm a second career registered nurse focused in advanced illness, particularly those that would qualify for either palliative care or hospice care. Those are two separate services. I'm also a certified end-of-life doula through the International Dual Life Movement, an end-of-life educator, book author, and writer. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to visit. In this channel, we talk about issues related to death and dying. After all, we're all going to die. Shouldn't we be more aware of what we're facing? Studies have shown when we're aware of what we're facing, when we plan for a good death, we're not talking suicide. We're talking making appropriate arrangements above and beyond funeral planning. Do you want dialysis? How much pain medication do you want? Do you want to be able to have conversations with family? Who do you want to have over? A wide variety of issues above and beyond what most people look into because in all honesty, a lot of people, let's put that off for another day. Well, not now. But I like raising awareness and increasing literacy in this area. If these are subject matters that interest you, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell notification below, and hitting the like button. It does help small channels like mine get the word out there with the YouTube algorithm, and I do appreciate that. The topic for today's video is for those of you who are like you're working your doula business and you want to get more into advanced directives. Or maybe you're an individual that maybe you've not done yours. Less than 40% of Americans have a living will that is up to date and they can find it. And sadly, and I live in Madison County, Kentucky, statewide, less than 9% of Kentuckians have a living will. This is such a critical document because unless you have a legal document as to what are your wishes when you cannot speak for yourself, then the state can take over. They can make decisions for you. That could be against your best interest. And unless you have a spokesperson that has in writing that they're your spokesperson, they could say all they want, their family, here's my ID, here's the family tree, but unless it's in writing that they're your durable power of medical and durable power of financial attorney, you might be up the creek. So before we go into today's topic, which is going to be looking at how you can use as whether an individual, an end-of-life professional, end-of-life doula, you can use Perplexity AI. I've done other videos on Perplexity to expand your toolkit for what you're doing to help people. Before we get into that topic, and this is going to be two forms for this video. We have the talking head now, and then we're going to go into tutorial view for the second part because I want to take you into a deeper dive into my world, so to speak. Before we get into that, I want to ask you, what are you grateful for? What are you grateful for? So throughout life, we have different losses. Sometimes the loss is a human being. Now, I'm filming this in advance of publication. Today is Thursday, September 18th. This is probably going to be published. I have to look at my YouTube publishing schedule. It'll probably be still in September, but further out. But just the past week, we had the brutal assassination of Charlie Kirk for his strong Christian values. It was not a political assassination. You're entitled to your opinion, I'm entitled to mine. But we had his loss. We had other people that were killed. In York, Pennsylvania, on Thursday, September 17th, 5 officers shot, 3 died. I live in Madison County now, but my wife and I come from York, Pennsylvania. My wife was in conversations with one of the officers that lived on within a block or two from us. It was a tragic and sad event, an event that and this is not about guns, by the way. We don't even know what Cain killed Abel with. Was it a rock or his bare hands? It's an issue of the heart. But we have a lot going on. And it could be human life. It could be a loved one, a friend, somebody that you barely knew, but you had a connection with. Grief comes in many forms. And life changes. Um, I'm going to talk about something in terms of what I'm grateful for in a moment that may sound weird, but because it includes a loss. But here, let me go into what I am grateful for. So I shared, if you've been watching this channel for any length of time, I shared my journey from hospice nurse, which I still consider myself a hospice nurse, just because of the quantity of experience. I wrote 21 books for hospice nurses, and I have a number of people reaching out to me, even this past week, just thanking me that the books have been so helpful, including those getting back into hospice. So those of you who've been following this channel know that, like, when I came to Kentucky, I got my Pennsylvania license endorsed by the Kentucky Board of Nursing. That was December 13th of last year. Yes, I'll be renewing my license shortly. Renewal started the week of September 15th. And my wife is like, "You're going to be the first one of us getting a job." And we both want to work part-time, and she is working part-time. But I quickly found out that in the state of Kentucky, in spite of, or despite, depending on your word choice, that the nursing shortage is as horrible here, even worse than Pennsylvania, especially in hospice. It's mind-blowing that the people making decisions about who to hire and how to hire are limiting their choices by saying, if you want to work part-time in Kentucky, or PRN means as needed, and as needed typically does have hours per month, quarter, or period of time that you have to work. Everywhere in Kentucky, that at least that I look for, that's around Madison County. I'll even consider Fayette, well, as Lexington, Frankfort, in terms of areas, but it's like a 12-hour shift. Hospice Care Plus. I didn't interview formally, but when I volunteered there for I guess it was a month and a half. There's a story to why that ended peacefully. But I talked to Chastity, who's the inpatient director of nursing there, and she confirmed that they have days and nights that it's a 13 or 14-hour shift, because the other person coming in had traffic issues or family issues or life issues or charting. That's its own story. And so I drew a line in the sand that I'm keeping, that from a driving perspective, I would not work a 12-hour shift. At 10 hours, I'd consider, but preferably 8 hours or less. And for those of you who might be rooting for me, I'm open to doing 24 to 32 hours, and some may say 32 hours is full time. You do you, and I'll do me type of thing. And I still want to run my doula business. That's why I'd have to try to find some balance. But in terms of the gratitude, if you watched a couple episodes ago, I mentioned that I'm interviewing. I had an opportunity through a Medicis hospice. They were looking for a remote, so fully remote, hospice triage nurse. And the initial advertisement was part-time with benefits every weekend, 12-hour shift, but it's remote, so it is a 12-hour shift. I know there might be arguments that might turn into 12 and a half hours, but it's at home. There's no drive time. Um, and so wonderful. So, and with benefits and PTO and health insurance. Um, right now, for anyone interested, I know it's a little rabbit trail, I'm not going to go deep. I'm using Zion Health for medical sharing. I was with the ACA, but that's its own rabbit trail as to why I switched. If you're interested, comment below. We'll have a discussion, non-judgmental. So here I put my name in the hat, so to speak. Here's my resume. Here's why I'm interested. And I had a recruiter reach out to me, said that I'm a strong candidate because of my background, the very strong in hospice, the book writing, everything else. It had some humor moments because she said, would my current employer be okay with me working every weekend? Well, my current employer is Compassion Crossing that I am the founder of. So I'd be okay with me doing that. And so we had a very good telephone screening. And then she said the next step is that one of their managers for the triage would be reaching out. And we had some missteps there, mainly when unknown caller after well after 5, I didn't pick up, and it happened to be the person. But we got back on track, and I had my interview on Tuesday, the 16th. One moment just to get rid of the sounds. I'm getting some texts in. And so I had that interview, and in little rabbit trail, they're at like, how would I do at multitask? Well, I think I do okay. So some of these parts, by the way, maybe my autism, I still remember one of my patients who I fell in platonically in love with when I worked at Colonial Lodge, where she asked me, am I safe? Literally, those were her words, are you safe? And I told her, I said, I believe I'm safe, but what would a serial killer answer? You think they'd say I'm a serial killer? I mean, literally. Uh, so when they ask certain questions like, how do you think you would do? I think I do okay, but really the proof is going to be in the pudding when I'm actually out there. Yes, from a point of view, if you're watching, I can be too honest for my own good, but I try to be transparent. Anyway, I had the interview. They told me they'd let me know by Friday the 19th. Keep in mind, again, the date of this filming is the 18th. And I just heard today, and this is where it's going to sound odd, but they did reach out this morning that they picked another candidate. And you might be, well, before I go, I apologize. This is filmed live, recorded, but live. Um, when I got the telephone screening, oh, by the way, that part-time job's taken. There's now 2 different PRN options. There's every weekend plus helping out during the week here and there, and the part-time had the same thing. And then the other choice was every other weekend. And I said, I'll take the every other weekend. And I picked the every other weekend part because of the doula business. There are times I'm teaching on weekends. There's times I want to help people on the weekends. And I thought that would be best. So, and then when I interviewed, I did let them know that the last weekend in March, I'm most likely going to be tied up because the last Friday in March, God willing, right now it's on the schedule. I've been in conversation with, I've shared, I got my draft presentation done. God willing, I'm the keynote speaker, the first nurse that they've ever had at the South Carolina Hospice and Palliative Care Conference. And so I'm going to be speaking about uh, interdisciplinary communication from the nurse perspective, looking at case studies for an admission that goes through and an admission that doesn't. And I said, because I'm driving, both going to and from, I'm probably going to need off that weekend. So getting back on track, Suzanne reached out to me today, the 18th. Uh, Sorry, the job went to somebody else. And you might be thinking to yourself, what are you grateful for? You didn't get the job and you want to get a job in hospice. Well, I like looking at things from what's the best case out of this? What's the beauty in it versus looking at what's the ugly in it? When you look at life, you have two choices. Whenever you're in a situation, whenever you're in a situation, you have two choices. And yes, we're going to get to the topic of the video, so please bear with me. Those of you who've been watching, I can be verbose. You got two choices when life hits you in a way that maybe you wouldn't want. You could say, what lesson did I learn from this? How did I grow from this? What's the beauty in this? Or you can go into, life is against me. I can't, why do I even try? I'm never going to succeed at this. Why do I keep on going on? Now, I share with many, you do you, me do me, but I challenge you. Look at what is the good. So I asked the person, I said, thank you for getting back to me, and I am grateful. Because one of the interview questions was, uh, how many jobs did I have that I did full-time triage? And in my transparency, I said, didn't have any job that was full-time triage, both for Sarah Care Hospice and Rain Hospice of York. There were times where you're on call, and that included overnight, where not only did you have to handle the call, you had to deal with the emotional de-escalation, you had to deal with symptom management, you had to make a decision about who's going out. Now, when those cases, it's me that's being the nurse to go out. And so I asked, I said, was it because I don't have heavy triage experience? And because they mentioned they were concerned about scheduling conflicts and the lack of full-time triage. And with the scheduling conflicts, to put that in context, one was the March, but I did ask, I said, since this is PRN, since there's no benefits, I kind of knew the answer. I said, how's PTO handled? And they said PTO is handled by you put in a request for time off sufficient in advance, which that's fair. But they said if the answer is no, they might go and say, uh, only if you can find your own coverage. Now, between you and me, um, that is a horrible position. And I advocate for myself. I said that to me, that's the employer's job to find coverage. And I still believe that as I'm telling you. The employer job should find coverage for their staff in order to be able to go on vacation. If you want to retain staff, that's your job. And I'm not being mean with that. That's just how I feel. So I have a feeling that because I asked that question, that was part of the scheduling conflict. Because in reality, it was just that March event, but who knows what public speaking event. So I'm not saying they don't have points. But to me, I'm grateful from the perspective that I'm a firm believer that God opens and closes doors. And if God wanted me in this job and in this position, I would have got the job. So God gave me an answer. So I'm grateful for God giving me an answer. Now, you, the viewer, might think I'm nuts, and that's your choice. And you might be right because I'm a broken person. So let's get into the topic for today's video before I go on, harping on anything or down too many rabbit trails. So what I want to talk about today is for either my end of life doula, or maybe you're not an end of life doula, but you like preparing living wills, or you're doing tasks and you want to find out, is there something that I could add to my toolkit in order to make my life easier? So those of you who've been watching, I talked about my packet for living wills. So I talked about my packet. I mentioned, I found these. I think they were Myers, but I ended up getting I ran out because we only picked up about 5 of them when we went because we weren't sure how they'd work, and it was like, this is actually working fantastic. So I ended up ordering. I am still here, sorry. I ended up ordering 100 of these from Office Depot. The only difference between this one and this one is this is 3-hole punch and this isn't. So And then here I had shared that I did Avery labels for um, Avery shipping labels, where I just printed that so I could have both on the, sorry, oh my word, I don't have enough hands. So I can have both on the inside as well as the business card. So I've shared that in another episode. So as we're talking about like building out your toolkit, one of the things I've been looking at as I've been having conversations with people about living wills, we get into the subject matter of dialysis. We get into the subject matter of dialysis. And that's a heavy topic. A lot of people have from my point of view, a misunderstanding about what dialysis is about. The misunderstanding is that dialysis is a bridge. It's not like, to give you an example of where I'm heading. If you have high blood pressure, yes, that means your heart's not working correctly, or your kidneys are not working correctly. Those are the two of the prominent organs dealing with blood pressure. And so your doctor prescribes you a blood pressure medication, a treatment. And it's its own rabbit trail, by the way, as to what the number should be, because many healthcare professionals, including myself, many doctors, are now fighting that, correctly, my opinion, that they're trying to push the numbers too low. And sorry about my caller being way off. They're trying to push the numbers too low, and this is causing harm to our seniors, our elderly population. Anyone over even in their 50s, they're pushing the number too low. But you get that medication. Let's say they start you off on lisinopril, which is a very common starting med. You might be on that for life, or it might be losartan. You might be on that for life. And the impact to you might be, in best case, might be minimal. It's not a bridge. They're not looking at giving you a heart transplant, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're dying. But when it comes to dialysis as a treatment, the doctors don't tell you that what's really happening is a bridge. Dialysis is a bridge to an organ transplant. Dialysis is a type of temporary life support. The goal is for you to get a kidney transplant. It's a bridge, but most doctors will not have that conversation that it's a bridge. And so, from a living will perspective, trying to keep this tight, there's not a lot of how do we have conversations about dialysis as it relates to a living will. What are your wishes, and how do I, as an end of life professional, you make your decision, but how do I, as an end of life professional, help you to come to that conclusion, whatever conclusion is best for you? And so I was looking out there, how can I come up with decision aids, tools, handouts to add to my packet? Now, the end result is going to be, I now have. And I'm going to walk you through how I came up with this in a moment, but I just want to have what the packet is first. Um, and Jackie, I so much appreciate you. Jackie's one of my fellow cohort 25 graduates. Miriam, number of what decision aids are out there to help people walk through dialysis for living wills. And at the time I said, I don't know of any. And I'm the geeky nerd, by the way. That's part of the picture. So, understanding your values about dialysis, that's a one pager, by the way. This is from today, December 18th. I came up with this. So, questions to ask your healthcare team. Now, this is a back and front. You see there, page one. And I'm not going to show you the back for the moment, because when I take you through, you'll actually see. And then what about making decisions as a family for those that want to involve their family in the decision making? That's a two-pager back and front. And then last is a one-pager. When you do your living will, some word guidance. Some word guidance. And so in terms of let's make life easy, I believe that there's a time and there's a place for artificial intelligence. I do have to put the disclaimer out there. There are some people that they don't want any artificial intelligence, and I'm not saying they're wrong. And there's some people on the other end of the spectrum use it all the time. And I believe there's a middle ground. I do want to take a moment to give a point of caution. I want to give a point of caution, a red flag, or a blinking red, blinking yellow, or blinking red. Take your pick. And I want to talk about two critical issues. One is this year, I believe it was this summer, a young person took their life because they were having conversations with ChatGPT, and ChatGPT gave them the direction that nobody cares and that they should kill themselves. I'm not saying that was the exact language, so please don't read into what I'm saying. Just today, actually, let me go back. Would have been today, 8 o'clock, 7. Yeah, just today. I had to backtrack because when I read the post, it said 7 hours ago, but I was reading it at 8, so it still would have been the 18th. A person posted on the most active Facebook group for hospice and end of life that ChatGPT told them they were dying. They put in their symptoms, and ChatGPT told them they were dying. I want you to pause on that. Artificial intelligence, they asked artificial intelligence, they gave a list of symptoms. Am I dying? They were told yes. Don't do that, please. That is not, artificial intelligence is not a replacement for a healthcare provider. Artificial intelligence is not a replacement for somebody who has training, certifications, licenses, etc. It is not a replacement for the experts that are out there. And I'm not saying, please listen, I'm not saying trust experts blindly. Anybody can call themselves an expert. Learn critical thinking, ask questions. But the questions, you have to be careful with any artificial intelligence, any. Because what I have learned, and I use artificial intelligence, not necessarily every day, but probably several times a month. Sometimes it's weekly. I don't use it daily, that part I know, but sometimes it's several times a month, sometimes it's once a week. But one of the lessons I've learned, and I'm the person that goes and watches like a half dozen YouTube channels a day, just researching and looking on the Geeky Nerd, what's new out there. Artificial intelligence, at least in 2025 and prior, has a propensity to mimic a people pleaser. I've had cases where I use Perplexity, that's my go-to, where it has given me completely false information. And I had my autistic flare up and yelling at the machine, "How dare you!" Yes, I'm not proud of those. My wife either yells or laughs at me, and she's right. Um, and what ends it done when it comes back, it not only apologizes it, but it overcorrects. It overcorrects. And then it's writing what I call doing defensive writing or defensive replying. And I found that depending on how you interact with the agent, it learns from you and it will start trying to please you, which means it's not looking for unbiased, accurate information anymore. It's now being a people pleaser. It's now going to tell you what you want to hear, which may not be in your best interest because an echo chamber is rarely in anybody's best interest. So that's the red flag or the yellow flashing, depending on your point of view. So I do want to switch over into tutorial mode. I'm going to showing you several different screens. So just to give you an idea in advance, we're going to be looking at I'm using my MacBook Air as a desktop computer, so to speak. So I'm going to be taking a look at my Finder window as to how do I organize things so that when I print out these packets, my life is made easier. And then I'm going to be showing you the article that these handouts are based on. It is an article that I wrote on compassioncrossing.info. I'll include that in the link below. I'll show you one of the reasons I like Perplexity because you can create your own spaces, and I'll walk you through how I built out the space that I used for these handouts, and I'll walk you through the prompt that generated these handouts. So stay with me. Be right back in the tutorial moment. There won't be the outro will be in the tutorial moment. Okay, welcome back. I just wanted to start off with the Finder window. How do I keep my packets organized? So I do have an intake folder. That'll be a time for a separate video where I have my various documents that I would use when intaking, i.e. onboarding, preparing, getting a new client. But in terms of living will, I have a folder for the living will, what's on the right side of the packet and what's on the left of the packet. On the right side of the packet, by the way, just the different forms in alphabetical order. One of the things, probably after I do this filming, I'm going to actually do what I did for the dialysis is actually number them because I do want them in the folder in a certain order. And if I ever grow to where I have somebody doing this for me, it would be easier to say, print these out and do these in this order. And then on the left-hand side, and that's what I did when I talk about numbering. Let me just go into dialysis. I figured, okay, I need to have a way for when I create future packets. What order do I put this in? And I made a decision this morning after creating them, understand your values, then talk to your doctor, then discuss with your family, and then what words to use. So that's just that in terms of just when you're working on organizing and growing your business, think about how do I organize the files? And again, the lesson I learned from today is going to have me going in and saying, okay, I now need to do the numbering for the rest of the thing in terms of consistency. And then let me move to here. This is going to be the article. So when you talk about using AI in an appropriate way, um, you need foundational material, something that's already been researched and written, preferably with references. So I'm the geeky nerd. I ended up, I wrote this on the 9th, published on the 12th. But this goes back to a number of my classmates. What is out there to try to help somebody walk through the dialysis decision. And so this is the foundational article. If you're looking at this is in depth. This is part of me. I do deep dives, and let's look at this issue and let's have a call to action and work through. So I'm not going to take you through the whole article. That's not the intent. But I just wanted to, because I do believe I have another video that did walk through not 100% my short-term memories like this. So, but this gets into that it's abridged. A lot of them people don't understand. This is not to like taking a blood pressure pill or some other type of medication that might be a long life maintenance drug because you're having some type of failure of your body to keep up with nature, so to speak. But that it's dialysis is the bridge. It's a bridge to a transplant, and sadly, it is a false promise because most people never get a kidney transplant. So let's now go to perplexity. Now, I like perplexity because perplexity allows you to create what's called a space. Let me just come down a little here on this. So perplexity allows you to create a space. And within the space, you can come in here, and I'm going to need to move this over. You can come in here and you can give it instructions. And I give it instructions as to how do I normally talk? How do I normally write? What's my brand voice? So you give that instructions. And then you can give it files and links. So I gave it a whole bunch of links. This is related to the living will, so I can be very particular. Part of the reason for spaces is if you have perplexity. I have the pro. I believe this is a pro feature, just a disclaimer. I'm not trying to sell you on perplexity. I will include a link in the description below where I think if you buy, I get a free month, you get a free month, something like that. It doesn't change your price, by the way. But part of the benefit of spaces versus using the same chat is you could add in links and files to a chat, but you're limited to how many links. They limit you to 10. And for files, they limit to you 50. I like the 50, by the way. That actually works. I've never run into the 50 limit. But the 10 on the links is kind of limiting. So here I wrote, I have like, we're talking living wills. Let's talk about, DNR, CPR, so on and so forth. And then for files, I put in, uh, I'd have to look up where the family planning guide. I don't have all these memories. Again, my short-term memories, even if I did this on the 13th. What did I have for breakfast yesterday? My short-term memory is horrible. So I have this is my own book, Crucial End of Life Conversations. Part of the reason for that, by the way, why would I include that in a book about like that book for ACP queries? Because I want my queries to be empathetic. I want my queries, my output to use validation therapy. So we'll get that from the book. Visual planning. Why would I include visual planning? Because when you talk about a living will, you could put in elements of a vigil. Who do you want? What do you want done when you can't speak for yourself? This is part of why I believe a living will could be among your most thorough documents that you've ever created. It could be like a book for you. I'm not telling you go that far, but a lot of people think, oh, it's only a couple pages. You can make it as detailed as you want and you get it properly witnessed. That means two witnesses that are not related to you, that don't have nothing to gain from your situation. The witnesses cannot be the person that's helping you go through this process. And you get it notarized. You need two witnesses notarized, your wishes filled out in blue ink, and the notary can't be the person helping you. You have to remove all elements and illusions of somebody having an in on making the decisions for you. I included my checklist. Um, there's a directive for hospital visitation, blah blah blah. So you include. I also included the ones that I have my book on hospice, my book on palliative care. Um, the DNR, all the Kentucky documents on that file folder. When I gave you the list of like what's on the right side of the packet, I included everything. Compassionate choices, dementia directive. So by including all those files, when I ask queries of Perplexity, it will look to those sources. They become sources. What are the sources? So you might be going, Peter, I don't have the PDF versions of your books. And by the way, if you have the Kindle version, you couldn't use it. I'm just giving you a full disclaimer. But you could list all your state documents in PDF form. You could download them to your computer, PDF form, upload them to your space. They become part of your toolkit. So I have Kentucky, you might have Massachusetts, Maine, New York, whatever, California. So you upload your documents, and by the way, for students that and past, current, future, I did publish to IDLM my ACP checklist. I may, in the not too distant future, I'm a member of several different end of life doula groups on Facebook. I may end up just giving this out for free. It's a 2-page, both for, it's mainly for the person helping the other person. But when I met with my one client the other week, I actually said, would you like the checklist for you? It's normally it's for me. They said, yeah, they'll use it. And that's fine. But a lot of these other documents, they're public. And by the way, this channel is non-judgmental. You want to ask for some of this. I'm not going to give you the PDF file for my books. Um, I've had people ask for that, by the way, if you think that's an odd question. And the answer for that, it's okay to ask, but the answer to that question is no, because that's part of how I make money. And if I give it to you, I don't know. I'm not going to even go down that rabbit trail for that discussion. Um, but if there's other guides, like where did you get this? That's public. Where did you get that? That's public. A lot of this is public. The majority of what's in here is public outside of my books. And so now we're going to come to the actual thread. So right now I only have one. I just used this once. You're seeing it brand new. Um, so I created a couple weeks ago with the intent of like, here how I want to need my toolkit. So I came out today and can you help me create decision aids? Please review. And by the way, I this is probably a Grammarly mistake. Thankfully, it didn't hurt it because that part should not be there, the individuals. But I gave it the link to this article, gave it the link to that article. And then I need you to provide 2 to 4 handouts I could use at meeting with individuals about their living wills. One of the handouts should be wording that should be used in the living will. In the best case scenarios, handout should be no more than 300 to 500 words as they fit 1 to 2 pages. So, side note, again, I'm the geek, I'm the nerd, I'm the person who will go out there and research how many words can you fit on an 8.5 by 11 page, whether it's a 1/2 inch margins all around or an inch margins. And so that you're aware the answer is 300 to 500 words. Um, and anything beyond that, you're getting into multiple pages. So it went, and by the way, with the sources, it's saying 54. I'm letting you know now, not all 54 are going to be anywhere near applicable. Just to show you, they'll have some on dialysis, but oh my word. And some, like here are some of my articles, PLST best practices, different end of life care. So some of these are mine. I actually, and that's some, I can't say that it found me through other means because I did include the Compassion Crossing INFO. But the values worksheet from the VA. So some of these are very good for what it found, but just so that you're aware, sometimes it pulls from very weird places for that. That's Perplexity. But let me get back to the answers. And so these are the main sources. So up here, it'll list the top 4 that it pulled from. And so then it created the handouts. And then here, by the way, when it gives you, it'll actually give references to where it's pulling it from. And by the way, in that article that I showed you here, part of that article was wording for the living will. So I knew, and granted, those of you arguing, see, you didn't have to use AI, you could have went to your article and just pulled out that section. You're correct. This was just a lot faster because then what I do is I copy and I paste. And by the way, if you have Microsoft Word for Windows, you can copy and paste this directly into Word. But if you have Microsoft Word for Mac, don't do that. It'll mess up formatting to a frustrating area. So I copy and paste into a WordPress post, and then copy and paste from WordPress into Word, and it, oh my, what you have to do. So, but anyway, it went and it created my 4 handouts. And I'm like, yes, it was, not sure why, because it asked me that before. And then, by the way, here it'll ask you, what questions would you clarify a person's value about the quality of life with dialysis, how to gently discuss. And those are whether I wanted to create handouts or do deeper dives. So that's the end of what I wanted to share with you. I love helping people. I love helping people. This is a non-judgmental channel. It is unbelievably hard to offend me. People usually have to try hard, and maybe it's my autism, and maybe because I'm dense, half the time I don't even get that they're trying to offend me. Um, and because of my thought process, and I platonically fall in love with people, that helps too. So I thank you. Ask questions below. If you like this, please like, subscribe. Thank you. And